I dislike shopping for cars. I dislike, the minute I walk in the door, that aggressive salesman whom I fear is going to get the best of me. From the minute I walk into the showroom, I feel like I am at war. The first thing he wants from me, his first volley, if you will, what's your name? Now, believe me, he does not want to know my name because he wants to be my friend. He wants to know my name because he wants to make a sale. And when he knows my name, he can control me in ways that he could not do if I remained anonymous. That is the ultimate objective, to be in control in such a way that I think I'm in control, getting a good deal, when in fact he is in control and getting a good deal. The only thing I can do to stay in control is to not tell him my name. But it's kind of hard to buy a car and do that. Well, there's a similar struggle going on in today's gospel. Here the struggle is not between the aggressive salesman and the suspicious customer, but between Jesus and an unclean spirit, a demon. It is all about power and control. A man disrupts worship in the synagogue, convulsing with spasms, wildly out of control and shouting at the top of his voice. He was possessed by a demon. And Jesus dramatically intervenes and frees this fellow from his demonic possession. What an amazing way for Jesus to begin his public ministry. I mean, did we ever think, as Jesus, the exorcist, there is much that is hard to explain in the life of Jesus. Turning water into wine, multiplying a few fish and loaves to feed a crowd of thousands, raising people from the dead. I mean, such things are frankly not part of our daily experience. Now, here in this text, there is a demonic possession. It all seems so bizarre, so far-fetched, so otherworldly. Now, some enlightened folks these days suggest that demonic possession was, merely a psychological disorder that caused this man to be beside himself. When someone is beside himself, he behaves abnormally. He is out of control, possessed by something stronger than him. So, Jesus' exorcism was really just like good counseling to a patient, something that they can get from a good therapist. This man was possessed by problems. Jesus helped him cope. Today we might call such demons, bad toilet training, or an abusive parent, or some traumatic event in the past. I mean, we would hardly think of it as some supernatural creature from a Hollywood horror movie, complete with horns and a pitchfork, hiding under our bed at night. But demons cannot be so easily explained away. The demons are not mere psychological disorders. Christian writer and literary critic, many of you have probably heard of him, C.S. Lewis, thought that the greatest triumph of the devil in our modern world has been his ability to convince us that he no longer exists. monstrous crimes that humanity has inflicted on itself in the course of history ought to be enough evidence of the reality of the devil and his demons. If the devil is real, well, then how can we recognize him? Horror films and their special effects have misled us. Because, frankly, the devil is not so dumb as to be so obvious. One thing that the scriptures make clear, however, yes, the evil one is horrible, but he does not always look horrible. In fact, the evil one is most often recognized not by how he looks, which often can be very attractive, but by what he says. That is what makes the evil one so dangerous. He shows up not in some hideous monster in the darkness, but in the voices and words of those whom we would least expect. He often takes what is good and righteous and twists it into something evil and destructive. The evil one you see is the father of lies. The lies and deceptions expose him for what he is, an enemy of God and of all things good. We see that lie portrayed in today's gospel. Mark does not tell us what the demonic possession looked like. There are no graphic details. Instead, the demon reveals himself when he speaks. But what he says hardly seems demonic. In fact, it seems wonderfully pious, wonderfully orthodox, and theologically accurate. He says, Jesus is the Holy One of God. Jesus should have applauded the unclean spirit instead of telling him to shut up. What's wrong here? Why would Jesus want him to keep his mouth shut? Well, the ancient world believed that if you knew the name of a god, you could control that god. It's like that auto salesman who always wants to know your name so that he can control you. It's like knowing the secret password so that you can break into someone's computer. It's like being able to utter the magical phrase, the abracadabra, the hocus pocus, so that you can be in control and pull the rabbit out of the hat. That is what this demon was trying to do. When he said the Holy One of God, Jesus was his enemy. He was afraid. He wanted to control Jesus, to thwart his power and keep his victim in his grasp. Always remember this about the devil. Even the devil believes that Jesus is the Holy One of God. Even the devil believes in orthodox doctrine. Even the devil, believes in the Virgin Mary and the resurrection of Jesus. But what the devil will never believe is that God is for you. He does not want you to believe that God is love and loves the whole world. The devil wants to destroy that conviction. He wants everyone to believe, God is my enemy. He's out to get me. Yes, it's true. Jesus, the Holy One of God, is intent on destroying the devil. Not this poor man possessed by the devil. Jesus loves this fellow who is possessed. Jesus wants to set him free. But the devil wants this poor fellow to believe, and in fact, not only this poor fellow, but everybody that day in the synagogue to believe that God is not on your side. He despises you. He only wants to destroy you. You cannot trust God. You know, he doesn't even exist. That same lie the devil and his demons perpetuate today. The devil may appear, yes, in the awful and the ugly, but more often than not, the devil will appear in the good and the beautiful, seductively telling us his lie. Steve, you can't trust God. You don't really matter. Your life doesn't count. You got to do something about it. You got to take your life into your own hands. See that fruit? Looks pretty good. Go ahead. Eat it. Because you know what's best for you. You don't need God, Steve. You can be God. And when we believe that lie, there begins our possession. A teenager looks forward to that day when he can afford to have his own car and truly be free to go wherever he wants. Ah, that would be living. So he gets a job. And he spends all of his free time working first to buy a car and then to pay for the insurance and the license and the repairs. And he follows all the rules. He does what is expected. And he thinks that his car is going to mean real freedom. And then he realizes that the car has become a burden. It takes up all of his time to the point where he has no time for anything else. His life is out of control. He is beside himself. He is possessed. Something good, simply having a car, has become a monstrous and enslaving demon. And it all began when he believed the lie that having this car would be more important than anything else. We're all vulnerable. We all can be possessed by the very things that promise so much freedom and satisfaction. A career, a new home in Carmel, a thinner waistline, a relaxing cocktail after a stressful day. Money. There never seems to be enough of it. And when they possess us and become our consuming passion in life, then an unclean spirit controls us. And when the spirits do not deliver on their promises, the devil smiles as we, like the man in the Capernaum synagogue, writhe in the dust of our disintegrating lives. Then Jesus shows up. Jesus, the exorcist. He will not let us be destroyed. He cries out, "Shut up and get out. The lie must end. The devil must go." Yes, Jesus says, "I am the enemy. But my enemy is the devil and his demons." And I love the devil's victims and losers. I have a heart for those who suffer. I want to set you free. And I'm not going to give up on you, you whom the rest of the world considers unclean. But I am going to go all the way to the cross for you. I'm going to chase the devil all the way into the depths of hell, shouting every step of the way, "Be silent, Shut up your lies. I love these people. And on the third day, you know what happened? God raised me from the dead just when everyone thought that the devil had done me in. And the devil was silenced and his lies muzzled. But the good news of my resurrection. Now we know the devil is not going away. Jesus must continue to be the exorcist in our lives. And there will be days when we fall for the lie. Our problems may be so great, our hurts so deep, our failures so immense that we feel that God has abandoned us, that He has judged us. Disappointed and betrayed, we turn to something else for hope, only to discover that their demonic power of us is still there. And we discover, our lives become out of control. But then we hear the voice of Jesus who shouts, "Be silent, come out of them, come out of my brothers and sisters at the King of Glory." Jesus picks us up when everything else has dumped us. The devil keeps pointing out our failures and fears. The devil points out how we have fallen short of God's expectations, declaring that we are unclean, unwanted. But Jesus fires back. And He does that every time we come into this place. Jesus fires back saying, "You are the apple of my eye. You are the crown of my creation. You are my beloved brothers and sisters, always and forever." There is an old tradition, maybe some of you remember, referred to when we had Nathan's baptism back last October here in the church, that when a child cries during its baptism, we don't need to be embarrassed or even try to silence it. Shh, shh, shh. No. The church used to say, those cries are a glorious sign that in this baptism, that Jesus, like that day in the synagogue in Capernaum, is driving out the devil. Jesus, the exorcist, declares, "Demons, shut up. Little Nathan is mine." He, she, you, all always belong to me. So every time we hear this blessed good news and receive the assurance of Christ, it is as if we were there in Capernaum. Oh, we may not convulse in spasms or cry out with a loud voice, but Jesus silences the lie. Jesus promises that nothing, not even the devil himself, will be able to separate us from the love of God in Jesus Christ. Yes, we are possessed, but not by the devil who enslaves us, but Jesus who frees us. And no longer living in fear, we are free to live for others. When we leave this place today, folks, we too can join Jesus. We too can silence the lie. We too can tell the truth. We too can drive out the demons by caring for others, loving our neighbors, searching for ways to assure the world, especially those who are convinced they are dirty and unclean, that there is reason to hope. Can you believe it? We too can be exorcists. Wow. Thanks be to God. Amen.